back. Season 2, episode, we're not sure yet.
1 or 2 or 3.
A podcast.
Yeah, we're back.
What's new?
So something really interesting to me, actually. I think about it so much because you and I are so close, and awful shit has happened to both of us in our friendship, but we're both going through the same thing right now.
Wait, but hold up. What's the awful shit that's happened in our friendship?
Well,
like
I mean,
between
like
us?
No. Like I've had a brain tumor and like, you know, I'm not going to air your dirty laundry.
Yes.
But I'm just saying, like, we've each gone through things.
Yes.
And as someone who works with animals as a full-time thing, rescue animals who have been dumped, animals with medical needs, I'm not a stranger to dogs who have been diagnosed with cancer, but we are now both dealing with our personal dogs having been diagnosed with cancer. And I think that I have a new perspective on it because I have never gone through it on a personal level. I've seen it happen to our dogs at Deity. I've been the strong person who says, we're just going to deal with it. This is what we're going to do. And when it comes to my own son, my pet, I completely lost all sense of reality. So I think that I have a new understanding and appreciation of the way that a person who's not in rescue would feel about that. And I think that we have relatable stories for people about what we're going through with our dogs. So yeah. I thought maybe we could talk about that.
I think that's a good idea. And you're right. You have always been kind of the strong, supportive work wife partner who, you know, I've always been the emotional one. You've always been the one who kind of is the glue and holds the shit together. I've had other dogs who we've had to deal, like personal dogs that have Layla, who passed away from cancer. You were my rock for that. But you're right. Like you and Mike and Addie, you have always been this intact, rock solid little family.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden your world was blown to bits.
Shattered.
A couple of weeks ago.
Totally. And I think that I'm trying to determine the differences here because having never been through it on a personal level, I'm like, why does this feel so different? Like I know how this goes. I know what the plan is going to be. And I think it's because generally when we rescue dogs, we already know they have cancer or they have masses or we know they're unwell and we're doing it. Like we don't know what we're going to get hit with when they have their first vet exam. So we're always prepared for the worst. And I rescued my dog when he was just a little baby. He was 8 weeks old. So it's not like I haven't been a helicopter mom about his health. I do a body check all the time. Every little scratch and bump on his skin, I'm checking his temperature. Like I am psycho. And this snuck up on me.
Yeah. And it was so subtle the way Addie's cancer came on. What type of cancer does he have? Because I'm not exactly sure.
So it's up in the air. Excuse us, we're filming. Little miss. It's up in the air, the specific diagnosis. We know that he has an abdominal mass that has already metastasized to his lungs. And the way that it happened is, okay, so he and my husband are very, very close. And my husband went back home to St. Louis for a week. And Addie just kind of started acting depressed. And I was like, classic. Like he loves his dad. His dad's not here. He's so sad. And he wouldn't like eat with the same gusto. He would eat, but not super excitedly. And he would play, but he wouldn't ask me to play. He would just play when I asked him. So I was like, he's just depressed because he was still doing his stuff. It was just, I had to pull it out of him. So I told my husband, I was like, he's depressed. Like, you have to come home. And I was scheduling all these play dates for the dog and like trying to just get his spirits up. And I said, I think I'll just get his blood work done. I think that if there's something weird going on, I don't want to be silly about it. Let's just go. Let's get his blood work. And we did. And everything was completely fine. So I was like, phew, like he's just depressed. But the doctor said, if he's not feeling himself, once your husband's back and everything's back in order, like let's do an x-ray to make sure we didn't miss anything. So I brought him in to get his x-ray, and she said she would call me the next day. She called me within an hour. And she's like, he has a very large mass in his abdomen. It has already metastasized to his lungs, which means there's nodules in his lungs. So the cancer, they assume, has originated from that abdominal mass and has moved through his body to his lungs. She says prognosis is poor. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She said, with cancer that's already metastasized, we typically say 3 to 6 months. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, he's depressed. Like, what do you mean 3 to 6 months? It was one of the more surreal moments of my whole life. And I've been told I had a tumor in my brain, and it didn't feel anything like this. This felt like it felt like there was an earthquake, and then the earth split into two, and I had one foot on each side of it. And I couldn't believe it. It shattered me, it shattered my husband, and I would say there was an entire week that I probably didn't stop crying, didn't eat, didn't sleep until we moved to the next step. But before I get there, I want to know about your story of how you found out that Miri had cancer.
Which was only a few weeks prior to you.
Yeah.
So kind of the same thing with Miracle. It was interesting because in December, she had her teeth cleaned and I did blood work. I had them do blood work for that. Normal. December.
Same.
Normal.
Same.
Fine. Blood work. Then I would say Jan, Feb, like this dog who is maybe 7 years old started having issues with her pooping. Like she would have a little bit of a prolapse. And she's been normal, regular, healthy, my biggest eater, my first one to the door when I'm walking in, like strong, healthy, like always had like a nice little extra maybe pound around her that
holiday weight
that we would, I actually, for her, I was like, from the scrawny little bred 2-legged dog that had been dumped on Christmas Eve at the shelter, who couldn't even move around the kennel. Like, I was like, this is who Miracle needs to be, the strong and stealthy one.
Well, and like prolapses are not new to us. Like, unfortunately, we are familiar with the...
Yes, but with an overbred Frenchie puppy who has Giardia and is pooping out her
since she was a baby, but not like a fully healthy adult.
Why would she all of a sudden be prolapsing?
Yes.
Took her to the vet, and basically he's like, well, sometimes that does that. Maybe, add some fiber to her diet, probiotics. I did all that. It continued. I looked online, and there's usually, most often, an underlying cause to a dog who starts prolapsing, and one of those could be cancer. And I was like, she just had blood work.
Right.
She's fine. Actually, they did blood work again because I took her back again for the prolapse. So they did blood work again. And then a few weeks later, my son and I were hanging out on the sofa on a Sunday morning, loving on all the dogs. And he always holds the dogs under their face.
He talks to them with eye contact.
Yeah. And he's like, Mom. He's like feeling her throat. He's like, why are these big and hard? What is that? And I was like, sure enough, like her lymph nodes were marbles. And I grabbed Treasure to feel what hers looked like. Hers were normal. It was a Sunday. And I was just like, my heart sunk. Because although I'm not a vet, we know too much.
You know too much.
And the only thing I could think of was lymphoma. And as crazy as that sounded for a 7-year-old Chihuahua who's like the healthiest thing in the world, I put my shoes on, put her in the car. We drove out to Oaks Veterinary Urgent Care. Dr. Karen, thank God, was there, brought us in the back, felt her, looked at me with these eyes, started to do all the blood work, the ultrasound, the x-rays. Sure enough, you know, it takes a couple of days for actual pathology to come back because they aspirated one of her lymph nodes. But her blood work at that point was off the charts for like her lymphocytes is a number that and that was off the charts. And so was another one. And Dr. Karen, who is a friend of ours, she's been through both rescue dogs and our personal dogs with us. So like,
and Dr. Rachel was there for me when Atticus got diagnosed. So they both went to
saved us both times.
Yes.
Yeah. So sure enough, and then at that moment your mind starts to spiral. First, like you said, like you're just shook. Like the pit of my stomach. This is Miracle. This is a 7-year-old not sick. Like this is my whole fucking life, other than my other whole fucking lives at home and my actual human child. But like, you're like, okay, what's the next step? I don't even have the pathology back yet to confirm her diagnosis, but you become this like just warrior mindset of, I need an oncologist.
Right. Well, time is of the essence.
Yeah.
Yes.
With cancer at all, but like lymphoma, you know, Dr. Karen's like 3 to 6 months. So I start calling, and with the rescue connections, I was like, okay, surely someone will squeeze me in with her. Recommendations from vets.
Oh my gosh, the feelings. I know them.
They were booking me into April.
I know.
I was like, my dog is going to be dead by then. And I kept thinking to myself, and I think I even said to you, what do people do who don't have connections when their dog gets cancer? And you said to me, their dogs die.
I think their dogs die.
And I was like, that is not going to happen here. So thank God, our friend from WUFA, she had given me, I don't even know why, if it was prior to that, she had given me the name of Dr. Koo at True Care Pets. And I called there, and I just basically bamboozled my way onto the schedule for...
As you do.
It was a Sunday. They took me on a Tuesday.
That's amazing.
And apparently lymphoma, which is what Miracle has, is the one cancer that responds to chemo well, and potentially from 3 to 6 months, they get like a year with the chemo.
Okay.
And I was like, sign me up, because as long as she has quality of life and the chemo doesn't make her too sick, I'm willing to try this. Let's do this. And so far, she's in clinical remission.
Meaning that her blood doesn't show it?
Her lymph nodes are back to normal. Her blood work is normal for the moment. Every week, although now we're pushing it out to like 10 days because I feel like every week is too much.
Chemo's really strong.
Yeah. And she doesn't eat actually, she had it yesterday. She ate last night.
Good girl, Miri.
She ate this morning. It just depends on, they switch up the drugs. It just depends.
Yeah.
Some days she doesn't eat the day after, and I'm like, cooking up all kinds of shit in the kitchen just to see what she'll
Yeah.
be able to eat. So yeah, and that's where we are. But you know, I think you're right. Like when it's our rescue dogs, you go into the mindset of you don't let yourself really get too close.
Yeah.
We can't. We can't get too close to every single dog that we bring into the rescue. So like, for example, Rocco, who by a fluke, we just found out he has a mass on his spleen and will be having surgery this coming week to remove that.
Right.
Like that diagnosis was from left field.
Sure, like we didn't expect when rescuing him that he was ill. We knew he needed to like get healthy and happy, but we didn't think he had something brewing like that.
Right. And being kind of where we are in this moment with like our mindset of just trying to keep our shit together on a daily basis so that we don't fall, completely break in half. I'm just, without like the pathology on him, I'm just trying to keep calm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, I think that's part of it though. Like we rescued Rocco when he was, I don't know, we think eight years old.
Yeah.
We don't know what his life or situation was like prior to that. We don't know if he has had weird symptoms or if his diet has changed. But like when my dog wouldn't eat his favorite treat, I knew something's weird here. Hi. And of course, if you Google, my dog won't eat his favorite treat, it says your dog has cancer.
Really?
Of course. I mean, yeah, it's like when I was like, oh, I'm having a headache, it was like, you have cancer. Like that's always what the internet says is going to happen. But like, ugh, that's worst case scenario.
Right.
Like I'm certain that's not what it is. And it being like hearing those words is unreal. And I also want to share that when I got Atticus's diagnosis, it was on a Thursday and I couldn't get into an oncologist. And I remember thinking the same thing. Like, this is unbelievable. It's not like we're in LA. There's so many oncologists, but there's also so many dogs that need help and not enough vets. And it was going to be 6 weeks before I was able to get him in. And that's halfway through his 3 to 6 months. Like that wasn't going to work for me. Luckily, you worked your bamboozling magic and you got me in with Dr. Koo on Tuesday. And it was finally like, I was free falling from Thursday until Tuesday. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to survive this. I don't know if I will ever be able to be happy again in my life. And when I saw Dr. Koo and we got a plan together, which for Atticus is radiation, he did 3 rounds of radiation in 1 week. It was like intense, but it seems to have helped the original mass.
How did he tolerate that?
Radiation in general is super tolerable for dogs, aside from the stress of like having to go to the vet. And this specific type of radiation is 3 sessions in 1 week. And Atticus isn't great with strangers. He's certainly not great with the vet. And I was like, this is going to be horrible for him. But it was our only option for him. And so we did it. And he surprised us all. He was great. He got radiation on a Monday, Tuesday, and a Thursday. And the only side effect they have you look out for really with radiation is GI upset. So they sent us home with the meds that could be helpful for that. And that was it. Following that, which is where we are at right now, he is 110% himself. He is so happy. He's eating, he's playing. He's more energetic than I would say he has been in like 2 to 3 months. He's amazing. So good right now. But he does have cancer in his lungs. We know that. So we went back yesterday and our options at this point are to do chemo, which would be a bit of a different plan from Miri's because he has a different cancer than Miri's. And it requires that a dog can lay down for 30 minutes with an IV in their arm and not get rowdy because the IV can't move. My dog is not capable of that. So at this moment, we are deciding if there is a route we can take with chemo that would be helpful and the benefits will outweigh the downfalls of it.
Can they give him trazodone to get him
They
through
can
that?
sedate him.
Yeah.
Okay, so a fun side fact, he has a low-grade heart murmur.
Ah.
So they had to sedate him for radiation just because they have to, not because he was unruly. And that was 3 times in 1 week. So the thought of continuing to sedate him for the chemo feels like I'm not sure the quality of life is there. I don't know. But right now he's the happiest dog. And I hope our trainers aren't listening. All the rules went out the window. My husband, who is like the rule person, he like when we started dating, he said the dog doesn't sleep in the bed. He said the dog can't have his toys on the couch. I'm like, okay. That went away a long time ago, but he always had his outside toys and his inside toys. As soon as he got the diagnosis, the outside toys are allowed inside. The dog sleeps in the bed.
Aww.
He's just as having that. He prefers his food to be grilled, of course, outside on the barbecue.
Love that.
So that's what my husband's doing for him every day.
Oh.
And this dog is so fucking happy that the thought of putting him through something that could take that joy away even for a day is hard for me to fathom. And I told him, I told my dog, if you are like this, you can stay as long as you want or as short as you want. And I'm going to be here. Oh, even if he doesn't stay like this, I will be here with him till the end. And at this moment, he is so here. And I don't know. I don't think I ever could have loved him more than I already did. But right now we're so bonded. And every morsel of food that he eats, I note it. Every poop that he has, I'm like, is it better or worse than the last poop? How did he sleep? Did he wake up? Is he scratching? Whatever. I'm so in tune with this dog.
Yeah.
It has completely taken over my life. But I think that it's twofold because we do know too much, having been exposed to this for so long, but I had never been so personally involved that I had to advocate for my own dog and look into ways to just help his life be better while he's fighting cancer. So that was something I kind of wanted to talk about too. Obviously, this is me. This is a regular person doing Google work, and I don't have any medical background or any confirmation that any of this shit works. But I do know, as soon as I got the diagnosis, my dog only drinks alkaline water or reverse osmosis water, whatever it is. Something about that. His food is like top notch, all the vitamins, all the minerals. And we're doing turkey tail, the mushroom tincture, which is supposed to boost their immune system. In the best world, it will help keep the cancer from spreading, but like, who knows? I'm just going to do everything I can.
Yeah. She lives on rotisserie chicken, and I bring home ground turkey, like or salmon was
whatever
this
she'll
morning.
eat.
And that's the vet. I was like, she goes, as long as she's eating.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, they're nauseous or they don't want to eat. And that's, for me, that was part of the hardest part because I know the battle he has ahead of him and he's got to be strong and he has to be eating. And you can't we've tried to force dogs to eat, but you can't really force a dog to eat. Right. And I'm like doing the best I can, making it look so good. He'd be so excited and he would sniff and just walk away. And thank God he's at a place now where he is eating ferociously because I know that's going to help him be stronger to fight this. Who cares what it is?
Yep. Every week when she gets weighed, when we go in for chemo, I ask,
have we gained weight?
We have stayed basically the same. And then yesterday she was a little bit above.
Miracle had extra chicken this week.
Yeah. So, being OCD about things like that, absolutely, because they need that extra weight on them to fight this. To just be of optimal health. But I want to go back to something that you touched on about like you being just totally connected with him, you know, post diagnosis. And I kind of feel the same way. You know, I'm trying to, like, if there's any positive side to this, is being in every single fucking moment with these animals. Like, because tomorrow is not guaranteed. And that's what this is teaching us. And it just makes, like, every morning she wakes up now next to me on the pillow. And I'm trying to, like, document all that. If my phone's there, I'm like grabbing my phone because I want to remember every single wag, and she smiles and like
I sniff all the areas. I just want to smell everything.
It just means, like, it always means a lot, right? We are obsessed with our animals, but like it means so much more now that she's waking up happy, and in this moment she's good and she feels good, and she's looking into my eyes, and we're having like a morning makeout session, and it's just like, I had this not happen, I would still probably do that, but like be jumping out of bed to go about my day, to get to work, to get, you know, on my phone to start working. And now it's changed my entire life, and not just with my dogs, but with my son, and how you and I work, because, you know, I have a kid who has one more year left with me, and we've spent in high school, and we've spent so many years now building this organization, and through COVID working like 15-hour days, not being home, and often weekends now when we're like clearing hoarding houses. You know, I miss being home with him. I have not been home with him a lot. And this has changed that. I'm home. Well, he's out of school now, but like I've been there by 3 o'clock. Most days now when he gets out of school. So I just feel like it makes you really hyper focus on each day, each moment differently.
100%. I mean, yes, I can't get enough photos. I want to be able to remember every single hair on his body. And like you said, it's really, really hard to find any silver lining, because dogs certainly don't deserve this. My dog, I always knew dogs' lives were shorter than human lives. But I couldn't picture my adult life without this dog. And so even though we're surrounded by dogs who are getting diagnosed and crossing the rainbow bridge, maybe when it's unexpected, I knew I would go home and my dog would be there and he would be happy and it would be fine. But knowing that I'm not going to have him forever, and that's a real tangible thought. It's not, well, maybe when he's 16, I bet he'll live till 40, which I love to say. Like, this dog is going to live to 40. He's not. And we're not putting off the car ride to his favorite walk. And we're not putting off, like, making him his favorite food on the grill.
Right.
And it might be, I hope that when I look back at it, I can remember this bond that we have with him now, rather than the ferocious disease that he's battling, because it might be the most special time I've ever had with my dog. But right now I feel blessed that I'm not taking 1 second for granted with him.
Yeah.
And he will not go, and has not gone, 1 minute of his life, the rest of his life, not knowing that he is completely adored.
That I know with you guys.
That's my guy.
That's your guy.
I would have had him here today, but
he's still feisty.
Yeah, even in his diagnosis, the dog still doesn't like other dogs and still doesn't like strangers.
Well, Mary, Chloe, and Shuggy came in his place.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for being the emotional supporters.
Yeah.
Not paying attention to us at all.
Yeah. But I mean, I want to go back to one other thing too, because you and I have both learned, not only through our personal dogs, but through the rescue dogs as well. Blood work is not always a complete picture. Get an x-ray.
That's actually
Even if you don't think if they get to a certain age, get an x-ray. If you've never done an x-ray, get an x-ray. Like the cancer in in everyone really, but in dogs is so prevalent these days that she's a 7-year-old Chihuahua. In Chihuahua terms, she's young.
Yeah, no kidding.
So like, where the fuck is lymphoma coming from?
Yeah, that's crazy and true. And Dr. Rachel said the same thing. If your dog is not acting right, and sometimes it's something only you can notice, like no one else would ever know anything was wrong.
Right.
If your dog's not acting right and blood work comes back fine, it's not fine.
Dig deeper.
I'm not a doctor, but she recommends abdominal x-rays every year after a dog turns 6 because time is of the essence.
Yeah.
And if you can catch anything, and it could be a quick cut out, take it out, it's not going to spread, we're keeping an eye on it from here on out, you will certainly save yourself the heartache of this. Of course, it's not always something that you can prepare for, but as a mom to my dog who's so in touch with every single growth on his body, I cannot believe that this slipped by me.
But it didn't slip by you. I am here to tell you that you had said to me a couple of times, Addie's not eating, and I don't know why. His blood works fine. And we were both like, go get an x-ray.
Yeah.
Just because.
Yeah.
And then you did.
I did. And Dr. Koo yesterday, my husband had asked, like, how long do you think this has been in his body? And she thinks like not more than 2 months.
Really?
Yeah. So his mass in his abdomen grew to a point where I would say a doctor could probably find it if they were really like pushing in his body.
Uh-huh.
But even after his diagnosis, I went back to try and like feel it, to be like, how could this have slipped by me? And I still couldn't. So as someone who feels our trainers will tell you, like, we'll see a dog once a week and like be petting them and be like, what is this? Like, this is something new. It's kind of like, I feel better about knowing that after the diagnosis, I still couldn't feel it, because I feel like it makes sense why I missed it. But you just can't rely, like these checkups are so important. Wellness exams are important. Dentals are important. Like all of these things are like, it costs so much money. Like, I just don't want to do it right now. It will save you money in the long run.
Right.
Granted, I wish I had health insurance for my dog, but I don't.
Does health insurance cover radiation and chemo?
I don't know, but every single person has been like, well, don't you have insurance? And I'm like, no, I don't. He's also, to be noted, 11 years old.
And he's a mid-sized terrier. He's not a big dog. 11 is not a big dog. Old for him.
11's not old. I certainly thought he had a very long life ahead of him, but also, he did join my life when I was in my mid-20s, and obviously I wasn't as thoughtful then to prepare for something like this and get health insurance. But luckily, he's been a very healthy dog. Yeah. I've never had to have an emergency situation with him where I was like, guy, better get health insurance for the future. I hate that it's this, but I will always have health insurance now.
Yeah. I just feel blessed that I had my little secret bank account put away for future facelift or something.
If you feel like
for a rainy day.
Well, Miri got the facelift money.
Because we're talking thousands of dollars.
It's a nauseating number.
It is. But again, only because they said that lymphoma has a good response.
It's responsive.
And it is responding for her. And at this moment, in this day, she is miracle. Like, she's fine.
Yeah.
So it is money well spent as far as I'm concerned. I just feel blessed that I have it to give.
We're so blessed. We're blessed. Truly, the first blessing might be that we're in the rescue community and we were able to get appointments with an oncologist. I mean, I don't know what date it is right now, but I still would have been waiting. Like, I've already done an entire round of radiation and got him on the proper diet and know what to look for because I've seen an oncologist. And if we didn't have that connection, I still would have been waiting. I still would have been in that free fall.
I mean, I would say to whoever's listening, if you're in Los Angeles and God forbid you ever have to go through what we're talking about, reach out to us and we'll do what we can to help. Because,
I mean, I hate to say that we know great oncologists, but we do.
Yeah, we do. Dr. Ku's been great. There are others as well. And again, thank God for Rachel and Karen out at Oaks, who we've spent many a late night there, but they get shit done for us. And
they sure do.
They do. So I have a question for you.
Okay.
In the midst of all of our personal shit that's going on, as well as what feels like impending doom in rescue.
Yeah, to put it lightly.
What if I were to say to you,
what? There's cameras here.
Would you ever consider going into another business with me?
Yeah, if I wanted to torture myself for the rest of my life. Yeah, we'll wrap that up there.
Yeah. We'll drop that bomb and then run away.